Hi, I'm Mr. Abbott, and welcome to today's lesson on the elements of a body paragraph, looking at how to make your main points effectively and the things you will need in order to do so. So, thinking about the body paragraph, there's a couple of vocab terms you're going to want to know. There's purpose, topic selection. There's the acronym ICE. You're going to want to know what that is and what it looks like in a body paragraph, and also the term transitions, and probably have a list of what those are and how you use them. And so the first thing we want to take a look at when we're writing our body paragraphs is you want to have a clear purpose for your essay. Uh, you want to know why you're writing. Why are you writing this essay? If you don't know why you're writing, odds are neither will your audience, right? And so the why of the reason why you're writing is your purpose. What do you want from your reader? What are you hoping to get from them? Do you want them to change their mind on something? Do you want them to be informed? What exactly are you hoping to get from the people reading your essay? And if you don't know what this is, then you're going to have a very hard time writing your essay. This is the first thing you want to do is figure out what is it that you even want. And so a lot of times students just want a good grade from a teacher, but that's not going to get you a good essay, right? So imagine you're in the middle of writing and your reader all of a sudden asks you, why are you telling me this? Can you answer that question? And so as you're writing, always ask yourself, if the reader was going to ask me right now, why are you telling me this? Do you have an answer for that? And if you do, you're probably writing pretty consciously and pretty deliberately. But if you write a sentence and you're like, well, I don't know why I'm telling the reader this, that's a problem. It means that you don't really know the argument you're trying to make, and if you can't think about it, you may want to consider cutting that portion. And so, some common purposes are to inform about something, right? To enlighten on something, to entertain by doing something, or to persuade somebody of something, right? And so, you might say this paragraph, and you want to think about this for each paragraph of your essay. What is the purpose of this paragraph? And you want to think about it in the larger whole as what is the purpose of this essay? And so this paragraph might just be to entertain my readers by telling them a funny story. It might be to persuade them that they should, lock their phones up during class. Whatever it is that you're trying to do with that section of your essay, that's the purpose. And so for each paragraph, you should really have a purpose, and you want to know why you're writing what you're writing. Once you have that purpose, you want to express it in what's called a topic sentence. This is usually the first sentence of every paragraph you write, and it should tell exactly what your purpose is. You don't want your reader to be constantly guessing, why is this author telling me this? You want them to know from the very first line of the paragraph what you're trying to prove and why you're trying to prove it. And so the topic sentences, they're like small claims for your body paragraphs, right? It tells what idea you'll be discussing in the paragraph. It gets the reader ready to get the information that you're going to give them. And it should contain something that's kind of a debatable idea. And so your topic sentence is really equal to the purpose of your body paragraph. And so it's more or less saying, like, in this paragraph, I will, right? And so if you want to really write a topic sentence, you can start off that way. You can say, in this paragraph, I will. Well, what are you doing in that paragraph? For example, in this paragraph, I will show how professional chefs agree ketchup should never be added to a hamburger. You disagree with that? Fight me. Ketchup has no place on a hamburger. All right, so you wrote this. Now, it's not really very persuasive writing to write things like, in this paragraph I will show. And so the first thing you want to do is you just want to take out that sentence, right? And just take out, in this paragraph I will show that, and just say, professional chefs agree ketchup should never be added to a hamburger. Now I know exactly what the purpose of that paragraph is. If I start a paragraph with saying professional chefs agree ketchup should never be added to a hamburger, I'm going to show how evidence that multiple professional chefs never add ketchup to their hamburger. And then after you do that, you probably want to add a transition from the previous paragraph. For instance, professional chefs agree Ketchup should never be added to a hamburger. So really all this is about is this topic sentence, which allows your reader to transition from what it was you were saying in the previous paragraph to what you're saying in this paragraph. And so if you look at your claims that you wrote, and there's no way you should be writing body paragraphs unless you already have a claim. Hopefully we've gotten to that by this point. But if you look at your claim already has your body paragraphs built in as the reason, right? And so if you say something like, make a claim like smartphones have had an overall negative impact on teens because they decrease the average teen's ability to concentrate, increase rates of depression and suicide, and reduce overall achievement, right? And so here, those three reasons are your three body paragraphs. And so those three reasons are going to turn into your three topic sentences, right? And so the first reason, decreases the average teen's ability to concentrate, would turn into the notifications from social media have decreased the average teen's ability to concentrate deeply on one subject, right? And so what I'm really saying is in this body paragraph, I'm going to be showing you how the notifications from social media have decreased the average teen's ability to concentrate deeply on one subject. And so your topic sentence is just saying, hey, this is what I'm trying to prove. And if you've already written your claim in a really effective way with reasons, you have your topic sentences, right? And so my second body paragraph should match this reason, right? It is increased rates of depression and suicide. Cyberbullying and social media have caused rates of teen depression and suicide to skyrocket. And then finally, the last one, reduce overall achievement. Distraction caused by smartphone usage has reduced teen achievement on standardized tests and mastery of life skills. And so here, your topic sentences, you should have them already, more or less, if you've written your claim. You'll notice they're not exactly the same as what I wrote in my claim, but they're saying the same thing in different language. And so what this is just you're trying to lead your reader through your paper and make it clear, like, hey, in this paragraph, I'm going to be doing this thing. You don't want your reader to be guessing what you're doing. If your reader doesn't know why you're telling them what you're telling them, you've lost them. And so once again, it's going back. And as you're writing, if your reader were to stop you and be like, why are you telling me this? You should have an answer for that. You should know why you're telling them that. And so after we give our topic sentence, we want to move into a process, an acronym I call ICE. And it's really about padding a citation. And so ICE is a process where you introduce, cite a piece of evidence, and then explain that piece of evidence. So introduce the evidence, cite the evidence, explain the evidence. We've already gone over evidence in the previous lesson. If you don't know what evidence and how to cite it, what I'm talking about, you should probably review lesson 3 because you're missing a major piece of your essay. If you do know, then let's keep going. And so if you want to think about your evidence in your essay, think about it like a hamburger. And so the patty is citing your evidence. It's the good part. It's the things everybody wants. The top bun is like introducing the evidence, is giving context, and the bottom bun is explaining your reasoning behind that evidence, right? But what you don't want to do is you don't want to just give your reader a hamburger bun. Because if you were just to hand somebody a hamburger bun, they'd be like, why are you giving this to me? It's not a complete hamburger. I don't want this. And that's what it's like when you just put a piece of evidence in your essay without giving the other parts. You need all three. Don't give your reader a hamburger bun. Don't do it. Don't give them a hamburger bun. All right. And so the first part of introducing the evidence is you're transitioning into your evidence. And so before you give your citation, you want to make sure your reader knows who is speaking and what they're speaking about. It sets up the context for the citation. And so, for instance, if you just see something without context, like, way to go, right? Here's a quote in my paper that really, I don't know who's saying it or why they're saying it. And that matters because let me show you. After the boy kicked the ball into the goal, his coach yelled, way to go. Here, way to go is a positive exclamation. He tossed the half-full milk carton towards the trash, but missed. His teacher responded sarcastically, way to go. Now here, way to go is not a positive thing. This is sarcasm, right? And so the way to go means something completely different in this sentence than the other one. And then finally, when asked about the new trade policy, the head of the International Monetary Fund said the deal was a bad way to go, right? And so here, once again, way to go means something different. And so without context, your reader can't figure out what your quote really means. And so you need to do a little bit of work to explain what your evidence is and why you have it. And so if you're quoting a narrative text, you should probably tell what's happening in the story at the moment the quote is given, who's speaking, anything the reader really needs to know to understand that quotation, or anything like that. If you're writing an informative text, you probably want to know who's the author. What point was the author making at the moment the quote was given? This is some basic information that your reader is really going to need in order to understand your citations. And so you can use different sentence frames. If you take a minute, copy down this list, or just look up an example, these are ways to introduce your evidence and bring it in. So you can say X states according to X, and you replace this with the author's name. In her books, X maintains that blank. Anything like this can help set up your evidence, right? And so typically you just want to say who's speaking, what are they speaking about, and where did you get this information from? And so after you do that, then you can cite your evidence. And I'm not going to go over this in detail because this was the whole point of lesson 3. Once again, if you don't know what I'm talking about when I say citing evidence, you need to go back and do the last lesson. You did not learn what you needed to learn, and you are missing some of the essential details. And so you want to go back and learn what a citation is. But remember, you can use a quotation, a paraphrase, or a summary here as a citation. Once you cite your evidence, you want to explain why you used it, right? And so don't just throw the evidence in quotation into your paper and assume that your reader gets it, because your reader's not going to get it. Your reader is very likely to misunderstand what you're saying. And if you don't explain why your claim or how your claim matches the piece of evidence that you put in there, they're probably not going to take the mental effort it takes to figure it out. Never leave the task of figuring out what you're saying to the reader, because they're not going to figure it out. They're not going to figure out what you're thinking. And most people just aren't really that engaged with what you're writing. So you don't want to make them do a lot of work, because they'll just stop reading you. Or if it's a teacher, they'll be like, whatever, I don't understand what this person's saying. All right. Finally, one last thing. In your body paragraphs, you're going to want to consider using transitions a lot, right? And so this is a way of combining ideas that shows a relationship between the ideas. Are you adding information? Are you elaborating? Are you using a cause and effect? Are you showing an example, comparing, contrasting, concession, conclusion? Any of these things are going to be relationships between the things between your paragraphs and between ideas in your paragraphs. And you want to use a lot of words to show this. There's a list right here that you can take a look at. And it's easy to find these transition words online very often, but you want to use, if you're adding information, use words like also, and, besides, furthermore, moreover, right? If you're elaborating, you want to say in other words, to put it another way. Example, after all, for example, for instance, right? And there's lots of ways you can do this, right? Contrasting, saying although, but. Show how your ideas relate to each other. And so it's not just enough to know what you're trying to prove. You have to also know how your ideas relate to each other, because your reader needs to be set up for how the next thing you're saying relates to the thing you just said. And if you do that work and you just use a really simple transition word to show the relationship between those two things, it can help your reader understand what you're saying much, much more effectively. And so, all in all, typically your body paragraph is going to look something like this, right? You're going to start off with a topic sentence. You're going to introduce some evidence. You're going to cite that evidence and explain that evidence. More or less, this is what a body paragraph is. The largest portion is going to be explaining, right? You're going to be explaining your point, right? You're explaining how you proved your topic sentence by giving this piece of information here, right? But this is pretty basic. More often than not, what you're going to be doing is using two pieces of evidence and comparing those two pieces of evidence, or adding those two pieces of evidence to show something, right? And so you'll start off with a topic sentence. You'll introduce a piece of evidence, cite it, explain it, then introduce another piece of evidence, cite it, and then explain how those two pieces of evidence work together, right? And you don't have to necessarily explain after you cite it. You could show a topic sentence, introduce, cite, explain, or introduce, cite, introduce, cite, then explain both citations together. But in your upcoming homework, what I'm going to be wanting is I'm going to want to see this structure where you use a topic sentence, introduce, cite, explain, introduce, cite, explain. And so, looking back to this lesson, hopefully you have an idea of what purpose is. You know what topic sentences are and how to write them. You know how to use ICE to put citations into your essay, and also what transitions are and why you should use them in your paper. And so there's a couple assignments. I would review all of the IXL practices listed on the website for this assignment. Make sure you can go through them and get at least 85% mastery on all of them. Writing, you're going to choose one of the introductory paragraphs you wrote in the first assignment, right? There were 4 options, and we wrote an introductory paragraph for all of them. You're going to choose the one that you most want to write about. And for that introductory paragraph, you're going to write a body paragraph where you write a topic sentence, you add a piece of evidence that helps prove your point with ICE, then you transition into a second piece of evidence with ICE. And so, like I mentioned before, it's going to be this structure where you use the body paragraph, then you continue the introductory paragraph, then you continue the argument by using a topic sentence, introducing, citing, explaining, introducing, citing, explaining. And so let's take a look at this in another assignment. Okay, so let's take a look at the assignment for lesson 4, where we're going to practice writing a body paragraph. I have a little bit of a purpose and a description right here. But what you're going to be mainly doing is you're going to be writing a body paragraph that has a topic sentence, 2 pieces of evidence in the ICE format, and has transitions that moves between ideas. And so if you scroll down, you can see my example here. And so here is the introductory paragraph I wrote in for one of the questions on assignment 1, right? So you're just going to go get the introductory paragraph, one of them of your choice, whichever one you feel like writing about most. You're going to go get it from assignment 1 and paste it here. Then you're going to decide which reason you'll try to support. So you should have written a claim with 3 reasons. Highlight the reason you're going to support. I'm going to support the one that banning cell phones will remove a major source of distraction from the classroom. And so knowing that this is the reason I'm going to be supporting here, I'm going to write a body paragraph where I start off with a topic sentence. You can see that I cited 2 pieces of evidence here in blue. For each piece of evidence, I do the introduction, cite, explain, introduce, cite, explain. And the orange, I show all of my transitions between the paragraph, right? So this is what I want you to do. I want you to grab your one of the introductory paragraphs of your choice from writing assignment 1, choose one of the reasons to write a body paragraph for, and then do a topic sentence, introduce, cite, explain, introduce, cite, explain, just like we practice here. See if you can make 2 body paragraphs. Your evidence should be properly cited, as we learned in the last lesson. And if you scroll down, you'll see here's where I want you to put your work. And I want you to color code your paragraph. Show me all the different parts of your body paragraph. When you can start seeing your body paragraph in pieces and you know what you're writing and why, it makes it easier to write them. You can write an essay much faster when you write it this way. And so once again, if you have any questions, feel free to save those and ask me in class. I hope this assignment is helpful for you and it broadens your understanding of writing body paragraphs.